How did network marketing get a bad rap? You ever hear phrases like most fail and scam and pyramid and lose friends and fraud and few make money? You ever hear these? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today because a billionaire asked me that question. I've actually named this the icky, greasy, hairy mess because it, at first glance, you would think, well, it's because of this or it's because of that, but it's actually a whole group of things. And I want to walk you through this. So number one is that it's reps, current and former. All right. And by former, I'm talking about those few, and there's literally 6 anti-network marketers. And then other people kind of syndicate their content. And then there's the media, and then there's competitors. And that, most of them are confused, and plus they each have their agendas. Okay? So that's basically what creates the icky, greasy, hairy mess. So let me break this down for you now. First of all, we started out as an industry on the wrong foot, if you will, or against the tide. And I use that little analogy there because when I was in the military, they would say, forward, march. And everybody had to step off with their left foot right at that time. And if you happen to have stepped off on your right foot, then you were completely out of step with everybody else. And that's what's happened. All right, that's what happened when we first started out in network marketing way back in 1930s. And there were 2 particular instances, and I've got one hidden here, and I'll show it to you in a second. So prior to the 1900s, and I'm talking about going all the way back to the 1700s, there was a whole theory out there, and it was the germ theory. In other words, people would get diseases, and they would die. And it was because of a germ, a virus or a bacteria or something, right? And then coming forward into the late 1800s and things like that, there was this whole focus on that foods. It was cataloging foods that prevented diseases. And so they started seeing that people who ate eggs didn't get night blindness and then blindness, right? The sailors out at sea, they would have diseases, and then they started sucking on limes, and then the diseases went away. And so then it started coming out where that there was another theory, and that theory was the host theory. So there's germ versus host theory. And the host theory was that the bug, if you will, the virus or the bacteria or whatever, would not invade a healthy body. And so then the focus started being a little bit more about that. And so that was the reason for the cataloging of nutrients between 1910 and 1940. And then around 1950 is the best that I can see it, it went dark. All right, there was no other discussions whatsoever for that nutrition for the cure of prevention or disease. It just vanished, all right, and it became illegal to discuss. Only a drug or a vaccine could cure a disease, all right? And so, but yet Dr. Bruce Ames proved withholding nutrients could cause diseases. And so that was pretty much mostly, if I were to put a little bit of a lean towards something, network marketers tended to be people who were more about wanting to be as healthy as they possibly could, right? And it was basically the birth of network marketing, where there was a guy who was noticing people in China that the people who ate the most amounts of fruits and vegetables tended to get along the very best, right? And so he came back and he started a network marketing company at the same time, right? And so against the tide, into this whole conversation out here where nutrition vanished, right? It wasn't allowed to be talked about. In addition, Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller established something called the Education Trust. And what they wanted to do, and this is right around the turn of the century or just before the turn of the century, what they wanted to do was to create the education process in America to train the average American to get a good paying job in the global workforce economy not to become entrepreneurs. And I know when I was a kid, everything was about working for somebody else. And I remember my dad, when I'd go to work with him, he worked in construction, and he was always training me to be one step ahead of the foreman. All right. And so that way I would always have a job. And when I talked about going into the military, he thought it was a fantastic idea because he knew somebody who went in the military, spent 20 years, and then got a pension for the rest of their life. And so it was all about that. There was no discussion in the 80s, right? So like 1980, there was no discussion about entrepreneurship, none whatsoever. And so that was a secondary thing, while the people who really had a monopoly at the time of all of businesses, what they wanted to do was train everybody to get a job and work for one of their companies, because they had many, many branches of different types of companies. So we started out against the tide. All right. And so I have to also take blame. All right. And so if you're in network marketing, we inherited part of this. And so it's ours, right? It's just our game. It's what we have to deal with. And that is that representatives or distributors, whatever they're called in your company, they're just not trained. And so by not being trained, they're just trying anything out there. They don't know the correct way to explain the business. They would do these things that 5 that get 5, and that's 25, and 25 get 5 each, and those kinds of things, right? They're not getting customers, not training teammates, product and income claims, etc. They tended to spam people. Some people do. All right, I've shown you a grid of the people who tend to do that behavior. It's not everybody, but because it's on our watch, we kind of got to take care of it. And so they spam in social media, email, Craigslist, things like that. They harm relationships, and so they're bugging friends and invalidating their friends who don't do network marketing and things, and that's just uncalled for behavior. Disrespectful, again, rude behavior, and then agenda of making money instead of making someone's life better. When you really break down business to its very, very core, that's all that it is. The only reason I'll reach into my wallet to pull out my credit card is because I think that my life's going to be made better, right? And so, yes, a person can have goals to make money, but when they are with a prospect, whether it be in business or customer, all that focus is just about helping that person. Okay, so the rep's not being trained. That we can solve. All right, so now let me talk to you a little bit about the media and the agendas. Number one is, what is the media? Well, it used to just be newspapers, magazines, books, and television. And now it's also blogs, it's social media, there's marketers and competitors. And so they all make up this concept of the media, all right? And what is their focus? What do they want? They want eyeballs. In other words, all of the media work for eyeballs. And when you look at network marketing, there are 116 million people in network marketing worldwide, 64 million in North America, meaning Canada and United States. And so you just got to picture how many eyeballs that is to the media. It's a ton of eyeballs. And so if they write an article towards an industry, they get a lot of eyeballs for that. All right. And just imagine if those 116 million people talk to one person each. And now each of those know network marketing, or at least the term network marketing. And so that's the number of eyeballs that they can then whirl into advertising dollars, as well as other agendas. Okay, I've actually seen sometimes where companies will, like online, they'll say their name, not companies, but individual representatives. They'll say their name, is blank company, their company, a scam, right? They'll literally put them side by side. And I'm like, why would you do that? That's bad marketing, right? And so don't do that. That's kind of association marketing. Okay, so the whole focus is getting eyeballs. All right. Now, What happens in like television media is you've got an attractive character that's standing in front of the camera, right? And what the primary thing they have to be is believable. They've got to be believable. But what you never recognize is that they're reading a prompter written by unknown. And so the agenda is off the table. You don't know what their agenda is. So you have to listen very carefully in the way that they communicate in order for you to figure out what their agenda is. But we know at the minimum the agenda is eyeballs. That's what the agenda is. Now, you may have never noticed this, but it's very interesting. And that is that the media itself doesn't produce a product. In other words, they utterly depend upon who they're talking about for their power, right? So just think about they're covering the president. They depend utterly on the president for any eyeballs that they get. They depend utterly on the film that they're criticizing for any eyeballs that they get, all right? I remember, I'll never forget that I was retired for a long, long time, and I happened to Google my name, right? And it was kind of funny because there was all these sponsored ads down the right-hand side, and I was like, who would pay for my name? And I would click on them, and it would say something like, Tim Sales can't teach you this. I'm like, what can Tim Sales teach you, right? In other words, he's talking about network marketing, right? And so what he was doing is that he was using my notoriety in order to advertise, right? And that's the same thing that the media does all the time. And so when they start talking about network marketing, a subject they don't know, okay? They do not know this subject. And so all they're trying to do, like if you've ever been on the set, and I've been on them, they'll literally be talking in one category about the shooting down the street, and then another camera's this way, and now they're talking about network marketing, let's say, and then the next one they're talking about the stock market. You know, they could care less. Okay, so don't think it's them. It's the teleprompter guy. And so what is their agenda? And normally that has to do with the editor. And the number one rule in the media is if it bleeds, it reads. That concept came from people who drive down the street and there's an accident on the other side going in a different direction, that they rubberneck. They like turn and have to look. And so that's where the concept of it bleeds, it reads. And so you're going to most often find articles that are negative because it tends to create that shock and anger sort of a phenomenon in somebody. And that's the only phenomenon that is going to cause it to stick. In other words, a person's going to stick to it and kind of like not want to break at the commercial to go and get something from the refrigerator because they won't want to miss anything. That's the kind of content that they're after. I know that I had the Wall Street Journal contact me wanting to do an article on network marketing. After 2 or 3 minutes walking through it with him, though, I was like, all right, I can tell where this is going. And I said, are you going to write a negative article? Is that what your editor has told you to do? And he said, no, we tend to be kind of neutral. And I said, you didn't ask me anything at all that has to do with neutral. And he said, okay, all right, yeah, we are looking for a piece that is heading in this direction. And I said, well, I'm not your guy. All right. And so you can tell, and I just by default kind of know it, they don't want the story of the guy who worked for 5 years and retired for 18 years with a residual check. They don't want that story. They want the victim. That's the story. That's the one that bleeds and it reads. All right. And then as well as I believe that there was some of that other agenda stuff that I've told you about. Some of that stuff permeates through specific sources of media, right? Namely, like the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, things like that. Okay, just because they've been named specifically. Okay, so then there is. I'm going to give you 3 examples. Okay, so this was all cool and all, but I'm going to give you 3 examples. But first, I'm going to give you the words, how you know that they're trying to manipulate you. Okay. Okay, so number 1, generalization. The words that they use to generalize phrases is First of all, content that combines reps, companies, and products as one. All right, so they kind of classify a group. And what it does is that it shows that they're prejudiced against, all right, or for, depending on how they use it. So they'll phrase like you'll, they, most, like most network marketing products are expensive. Well, I've consulted a couple of hundred network marketing companies, and the products are not generally expensive. Some are, some should be, right? Some people should be asking why other products are so cheap, because I've seen the raw ingredients that go into a product and I know the price of them. And when I see products on the shelf, let's say, at a department store or a grocery store or something like that, I know it's impossible to have quality ingredients inside of that at that price. There's no way you can take a product to the market. In other words, it just won't work. So generalization, it's normally what spins the suspicious thing, right? And then association, all right? And that was a study that was done with Coca-Cola and Pepsi, and that was if you could position yourself against the number one, you end up in number two, and that's exactly how Coke-Pepsi challenge worked out. And so by associating one name with another name, network marketing, often known as pyramid selling. You see how that association is, right? It creates that concept. Most fail. Well, no one wants to associate themselves to failing, right? It's quitting, but they associate it to failing. Like a Ponzi scheme, predatory nature, FTC shutdown, most lose money. In other words, if you knew how many times, like when you're inside of the stock trading world and things like that, you'll see a lot more people and companies being fined and all of that stuff, but people tend to think of it only in a network marketing environment, and it's not. It happens all the time. Most lose money. Nobody wants to lose money. Predatory world of multi-level marketing, right? So, all right, now I'll give you some of the trigger words, okay? So that's association, and these are triggers. Trigger, fail, scam, fraud, pyramid, predatory, lost all their money, odds against you, lose friends, devastating, and life-altering. I'm going to show you these in just a second. And that's why I'm cluing you in on how they manipulate your head there. Deceptive, cult, bogus, right? And the biggest secret that they do is that they say phrases and they omit the context that would make it neutral, if not better. In other words, if they put it in the right context and told you other things at the same time, then it would have no meat whatsoever, and the person who's reading it would completely be bored. Okay? Few make big money. That's the same statistics for all of America. All right. So if you happen to see the data scientist that I put on and interviewed, that was looking at the statistics of network marketing. In fact, I'll put something at the end for you to see that. He said it's the 80-20 rule, and it is like always that way. In every kind of business you could ever go into, that statistically they can show it across the board. All right. But what they could say is, well, network marketing gets the same compensation plan. Everybody in network marketing or a network marketing company gets the same compensation plan, but they don't do that. And then also they could say, well, law one of business is you can make millions and you can make zero. That's everybody. So why do they focus on few make money? Because you could say that about every business. Most people lose money. Oh, come on. Why don't they put in there, it's $30 to $50 to join a network marketing company, and if you choose to try products, there's normally a 30-day money-back guarantee for those products. And any inventory that you get, you can also normally in a legitimate network marketing company, you can get your money back for them. Why don't they say that? They don't. No, they just point out the victims. And then most people fail. Again, I've already shown that in the other video. Make sure that you do watch that. But the bottom line is that 99% of all stock traders lose money. How many real estate agents get their license and never sell a house? And why don't they track that statistic? Insurance agent, same thing. Again, it's unlimited upside. Opportunity is always going to yield more people who quit it than succeed. Okay, and so then this is what the average is. And so I don't know why they omit that the average person in real income, they haven't had a pay raise. 60% of the population has not had a pay raise since 1980. Okay? They may have had bumps in their paycheck may have gone up, but the cost of goods that they have to buy increased at a higher rate. And so therefore they never saw any real increase in income. Whereas the top 40% have had quite a rise. Okay, so if they said those in context, then number one, it would dilute their story, and that's what they don't want to do. They want to make it look awful. All right, so let me give you some examples here. So in the media, all right, so this gentleman right here, his name is Bill Ackman. He's a billionaire, and he came out and he said, basically, I'm going to tell you what he said, but there's a way to make money when the stock goes down in a company. And so right here, this red candle right here represents a down move. And so if the stock price dropped from 36, and this was on Herbalife, if it dropped from 36 to 18, then he would profit $1 billion. Okay? And so that's what I mean by agenda. Okay, so that's what an agenda is. If he can walk out and talk bad about a company, and in a day or 4 or 5, make $1 billion, is pretty cool, right? Okay, so that's what he did. Now, what is it that he was saying? He was saying pyramid scheme, no customers, scam, predatory, people lose money, deceptive practices. Okay, so that's the words that he was using, right? And he just happened to bet $1 billion on it before he went loud. Makes it kind of insincere, if you ask me. Okay, so there's the drop, all right? And it needed to get down to 18 for him to make $1 billion. It went down to about that, but then it was immediately bought back up, right? And then FTC came out and announced that it was going to investigate. It drops back down, and then it rose back up, and then it broke above the point he bought it. And so there he is, not so happy, said he'll probably never do one of those again. And so in the end, in the end, it was just, and it will be just a blip in Herbalife's history, right? Because here it is, and now it's continue on. FTC got $200 million. Carl Icahn, that's this guy here, he's the one that bet that it was going up. He knew it wasn't a pyramid. And so he bet this way, and then he ended up revealing to everybody that he did make $1 billion betting on network marketing. Bill Ackman lost. The media got billions of eyeballs because this thing was the hot debate. It was all in the media. Everybody was like frothing at the mouth on it. And when he announces it, other people start wanting to make money as it goes down. And so they're cheering him on, right? So there you go. And keep this, when you hear your neighbor, our people, websites and things like that are saying pyramid scheme, no customer scam, predatory, people lose money and all that, just recognize that guy bet $1 billion saying that and he lost. Okay, so put it into context, right? He made $1 billion because he betted on it. All right, let me give you another one. So this gentleman, he is on the cover of Christianity Today, okay? And he's talking about that he's the fraud buster. He's going to go find the frauds out there. And so his name is Barry Minkow. Launched pyramid campaign against USANA. It's a network marketing company. And so and the stock dropped from $31 to $9, all right? So that's the drop right there, What was he saying? Pyramid scheme, no customers, products expensive, scam, top 3% make most of the money, people lose money, fraud, deception, etc. Okay, well, how did he fare? Well, he's back in jail. This is his third time, okay? But in the life of USANA, it was a blip in their history, okay? And then it's recovered and gone on. Barry went to jail for stock manipulation on another issue with restitution order for $583 million. That's what he owed. And the media, billions of eyeballs. Okay, do you kind of get this, that if you can go out and talk bad about a network marketing company, you can make a lot of money. And he may be the front guy, but there were a lot of people behind the scene that knew he was about to announce it. And so they were able to get positioned and to make money. And so now you understand what I mean when I say this word agenda. He owned the Fraud Discovery Institute. How ironic. All right. And so you see these people who are betting against network marketing, it's not faring well. Okay. So now I want to talk to you about Washington Post. And so this article is a new lawsuit reveals how the predatory world of get-rich-quick scams explains Trump. Did you notice all of those trigger words? Right? Pretty interesting, right? This is in November of 18. Okay, so I'm going to give you some words here. I'm going to read you what he says. Trump's, in other words, it's the families, talked up X company, all right? I don't like to name companies. And featured it on The Celebrity Apprentice. Not once, but twice. These actions allegedly tricked, do you see all these trigger words? The 4 plaintiffs, who included a homeless man and a woman working for a hospice, into, quote, giving up hundreds or even thousands of dollars, losses that many experienced as devastating and life-threatening, end quote. Reading through the 164-page legal filings, I'm reminded that the all too often predatory world of multi-level marketing explains much about Trump, too. It's all there. The exaggerated claims of success for everyone and the nonstop need to make the sale, all carried out with a cult-like fervor. Now, what did Trump actually claim? Unlimited income potential. So do me a favor, comment down below and let me know if you feel as though that this is worth anybody's time, right? You can clearly see they're trying to associate Trump and network marketing. They're using all of these words that I taught you that shows utter bias, and they're generalizing like crazy. Okay, so right down below, is it a legit article or is it an agenda article? Okay, so here's some other phrases, and I'm going to teach you how I read stuff. Those people, generalization, will forever pay a percentage of their sales to their recruiter. That's false. All right, and I'm going to show you why in just a second. It's called an override. It's not a commission, okay? As long as he or she remains active in the company and their recruiter above them. False. It's an override. And so on up to the top of the line. False. Depth is limited. The result, there are a handful of people at the top, omitted context, and top of what? Earning lots of money, while the remainder make very little. Omitted context. Again. Okay? That's how I read an article, because I fully know their techniques and I fully know the industry. And so that's the reason that I'm not bothered one bit by this kind of stuff. So an override commission, if you can just kind of picture this. Sorry, let me get a color here. If you can just kind of picture this, here is a network marketing company, right? And just like any company, they have like this budget that they set aside funds for advertising. And So this fund is what is called compensation plan. So hold that thought for a second, because I'm going to jump down here. Let's say that this lady is selling to this gentleman this box right here, this product. That is a sale separate from the company. And so let's say that the commission is 30%. That's a 30% transaction. And the way that the author, you could tell that she didn't know what she was talking about. The way that she said it is that will forever pay a percentage of their sales to the recruiter. No, they don't. The company sets aside this advertising budget right here. It isn't any different than any company. Nike likes to pay celebrities, right? Other companies like to pay television. Network marketing pays the individual rep who goes out and finds the customer, or finds a salesperson who finds a customer. That's where they have chosen to use their advertising dollars. And the percentage is no different than other big companies. It's kind of like the average out there, right? In other words, the amount of allocation to product development and marketing. So this comes to the upline, all right? So if this person right here, brought that person and trained her, then that person might get 15% override commission. All right, it's not coming out of that transaction. And if this person brought that person in, then they might get 10% override. And then the third person might get 5% override. All right, so that's the way that works. All right, let me jump back to this. All right. And then what the author of this article also said is it reduces all human interactions to potential commercial transactions, one that can be monetized for personal profit and gain. Okay, that's quite a generalization, number one. Number two is it's hypocritical, and I'll show you why in a second. But can you see the bias and how she's really trying to shed this evil light on Trump? All right, so now let me show you why I think it's hypocritical. Because while I was trying to read this article, this is what this lady tried to sell me. Okay, you remember when I said eyeballs? The reason that they write negative articles is it bleeds, it reads, and so that they can sell advertising. Look at all the things that this lady put in front of me, and that's why I think it's really hypocritical that she says that it reduces all human interactions to potential profit. Come on, lady. Okay. And then I was trying to read another article, and this one was somebody who was just not writing a negative article. The numbers are bleak. Look at what I had to do to try to read this little section, right? In other words, somebody's trying to sell me insurance, H&R blocks, tax, things like this, right? And so then here it is. There she's talking about the Small Business Administration, and that goes back to one of the 6 anti-network marketers who put out content. The rest of the people just share the same stuff repeatedly over and over and over and over and over. And when you look, you think it's everywhere, but there's only 6, and they're normally faceless and almost nameless. In other words, fake names and things like that. And so yeah, that's what's really going on out there. And then let's get to what the real focus is. And so this gentleman, he was a billionaire. It was back when that Bill Ackman had shorted the stock on Herbalife, and then this guy called me and he says. He asked me whether or not I thought that Herbalife was a pyramid scheme, and I said, no, it's not a pyramid scheme. And so then he goes, I have a question for you. Where did network marketing get a bad rap? And I go, well, that's a little bit of a long story, but I can walk you through it. And then afterwards, and he listened very attentively. He asked questions, and it was incredible. And you know why he's a billionaire now, because he's got that sort of, he's really thirsty. And so in the end, you can see that it is primarily just agenda-based. All right? But the most out of context thing that anybody could ever do out there is to miss this piece. And I showed it in the statistics. But all of these people here, and this is 10% who make all the way up to here. This is like $5,000 a year all the way up to about here, which is $200,000 a year is right there. That's a 200. All of these people right here, this is the amount of money that they get from 1099 income. In other words, most of these people are employed. And then it will jump. And it goes up just like that, just the way that the data scientist in the other video that I did talked that it always will be. And then anybody who makes $1 million a year or more, right? Most of their income's coming out of 1099. So 73% of people who have over $1 million in income in a year own their own business. That's what the focus is. And then network marketing is a business. It is simply a company that provides a product or a service that allows people to join that, and so that they don't have to set up a product distribution channel. They don't have to do the big inventory and buy in volumes of 10,000 or 100,000 and things like that. You can use their products, the network marketing company's products, to build a customer base and a sales force. Either or both. You get the idea, okay? And so it's business ownership just like any other business. And so that one of the 6 anti-people, he said that network marketing doesn't compare because in a normal business, 70% of regular businesses fail, as opposed to network marketing having a higher attrition rate. And that was argued, by the way. But what he failed to mention in that is that the average loan from this organization that he quoted is $350,000 in debt you go to start your business. But in network marketing, you don't have to do that, all right? And so my recommendation to you is completely ignore the media's agenda, all right? What you first got to do is just look at and say, I want to own my own business. That's clear here. And then you just say, how much freedom do I want? How much security do I want? Okay, so that's how many customers I need to get. All right? And so if you want 1 month of security, build that. If you want 2 months, if you want a year's worth of security, right? You get a residual income. Now we're talking about being able to create a retirement fund for yourself. Right? And so that's what all of this comes down to. And then and the steps, just so that you don't think it's difficult, it's not hard. It's generate leads, it's contact those leads, it's set appointments, it's show a presentation either on a video or something like that, or sit down with them when you get good at it, and then you follow up with those people until they say no, or they become a customer, or they become a rep. And what do you train the rep to do? This, okay? It's not a very difficult game. Everything that I've ever done in my life has always come down to a couple of fundamentals, and these are the fundamentals in network marketing. And so I hope this has been helpful to you. Please comment down below. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video. I appreciate you watching. I'm Tim Sales.